Thank you, Claudia. Well, first of all, I think you said Mérieux, but I'm working for Mérieux Nutrisciences, so let's clear that up a little bit. My intention was to tell you something about real world cases we've worked on about subtyping. Okay. So some real world cases in which we did subtyping, and it's very nice to see that that Mérieux is introducing another technique for that. And I might say something about that as well in the presentation. This is the agenda. So first I want to say something about Mérieux Nutrisciences and Mérieux, because sometimes there's some confusion about that, which is which. Listeria monocytogenes, what are we talking about? Listeria already has been mentioned in the previous presentations. Then something about legislation versus risk assessment and risk control. And then controlling the risk in practice. I just asked some of our customers, is it okay to present some of the data we gathered for you? And it tended to be a bit difficult because companies do not want the world to know what they have, and so we had to restrict it a little bit in the end. But anyway, I think we can have a clear message here. With different companies, Mérieux and Mérieux Nutrisciences. Mérieux Nutrisciences is mainly doing tests, so routine tests in laboratories to test your samples for presence of Salmonella, Listeria monocytogenes. And Mérieux is more focused on developing techniques to do these tests. So what I can say is that although we're different companies with legal two legal entities, we know well how to work together for the benefit of our customers. So just a little bit about Mérieux Nutrisciences. So what we do is we do testing mainly. We also do consultancy. KTBA is also part of Mérieux Nutrisciences, offering consultancy services. Expert services nowadays it's called, so we are operating worldwide. So as you can see in this picture, and I work for the Silica Food Science Center. I was actually hired to build a food science center in Ede. So and from that food science center we offer our customers services like process validation, challenge testing, subtyping, things like that. So and part of these food science centers are also some next generation sequencing expertise centers. So we have one in the US, one in China, one in Europe. So Listeria monocytogenes, I will ask to speed up a little bit. So I think everybody here knows about Listeria monocytogenes, so I'm going to speed this part up a bit. But what I want to show you is at least the most well-known case with Listeria monocytogenes in about 5 years ago in South Africa, where Polony, a meat product, appeared to be contaminated with Listeria monocytogenes, and a lot of people got sick. In that case, there were more than 1,000 confirmed cases. More than 200 people died because of the outbreak. If you look in literature, you can find some estimated cost of this outbreak. There was one article in which they tried to calculate how much the cost of the fatality cases were. I'm still figuring what it all means, what they're saying there. But the cause was inadequate food safety measures. I think that was, in general, the cause. This figure shows that Listeria monocytogenes is a pathogen that causes most of the most serious outbreaks. So if you look here, this is a page from Wikipedia. You see there are three of the 4 biggest cases are related to Listeria monocytogenes, if you look at the people that died because of it. So, and if you want to take a look at the numbers, it's best to take a look at reports that are issued by instances like the European Food Safety Authority. And the latest report I could find was that of 2021. 2022 report will probably release this year. But in 2021 there were almost 2,200 cases of illness, and there were 23 foodborne outbreaks and 104 cases of illnesses related to that, and 48 hospitalizations and 12 deaths related to foodborne outbreaks. Okay. Well, in the Netherlands we also have an organization that goes a bit deeper into this. It's called the RIVM. And they also produce these figures. And if you look at this figure, it shows the number of cases in time. So for the last 10 years, you can see here that there was no decrease in the number of cases. So, and then, well, me as a microbiologist, I start wondering, why aren't these numbers going down? Because all of you know, at least the ones that live in the Netherlands, that the government has been focusing on Listeria monocytogenes for the last 10 years. They have been pushing companies to make sure that Listeria monocytogenes is not able to grow in products when it's stored in our refrigerators. So yeah, they tightened the rules to make sure that the risk would be controlled better. But then you can ask, why don't these numbers go down? So probably all the actions that they took were not the right ones. So I wonder what's going to happen. But the Dutch Food and Product Consumer Authority is probably scratching behind their heads to figure what's happening. So okay. Well, why Listeria monocytogenes? We all know that it's a widespread bacterium that can easily reside in your factory. It's able to grow at refrigerated temperatures, so in your refrigerator. It easily colonizes your production facility. And also products easily get contaminated because of that. And there's also many studies in which they show that it can build up resistance against cleaning agents and disinfectants. And what we noticed as a service provider is that when there was the first time there was a link between an outbreak and a food business operator in 2019, it was a meat producer. That people, food business operators started to get worried. So if they can link cases to products and come to the company saying, okay, these people got sick and they, it's because of your products, then that's a clear indication that they should be a little more careful, I guess. So, of course, there's a lot of legislation. First of all, there is a regulation in which there are microbial criteria for Listeria monocytogenes. In which it said that you have to show that it's absent in 25 grams of product, and or show that the limit of 100 CFU per gram is not exceeded. You also have to do studies to investigate compliance with the criteria throughout the shelf life. And you also have to do environmental monitoring. That's something for the last years in the Netherlands that they are starting to focus on that. If the government doesn't say you have to do it, then usually it's not done. That's my experience. Maybe good to say that I mostly work for companies that are not dairy producers, but for fish, meat, vegetables, Yeah. I have the impression that people are not that strict with sampling and things like that. So, what else do you have to do? In the Netherlands, we have a legislation that's saying that if you're doing testing, according to the legislation, and you find an isolate, you have to store it. So, the food business operator has the responsibility to store the isolates, which means that the food business operator has to ask us to store the isolates for them because we do the testing for them. So that's very important. This is the legislation. If we translate it into English, well, basically it just says that you have to store the isolate for at least 2 years. And in practice, what we see is that those food business operators they do verification according to regulation 2073. They do environmental monitoring. They do studies that to show that the risk is controlled, but yeah, in my experience, only for the last 10 years, because the government focused on that and went to companies and asked them about the studies, what they've done. But if you look further, they do risk assessments, but only if the shit hit the fan. So usually for those type of things, like building a good monitoring plan, Jack was telling about, there's no budget for that, unfortunately. Good. Okay, what should food business operators do? Not do, what don't they do, but should do? So first of all, they should make sure that isolates are stored, because if you run into trouble and you want to know if it's if the pathogen was already in your factory for a longer period, you can only figure it out by comparing the isolates that were found years ago with the ones you end up in your product, for instance. So you have to make sure that isolates are stored, and it's legislation. A lot of companies don't know that, and that's because it's in a kind of strange legislation which most people do not relate with food. And it may be good already to compare the isolates before you run into troubles. So it helps you find out if the isolates are house isolates, so if they're residing in your factory or not, or if it's always different strains or not. So it might be good to map the locations where those pathogens are residing, try to find hotspots, and basically you really try to find the bad guys. That's what you need to do. And then if you do that, you can of course try to eliminate the source in those hotspots. So when I go to companies to help them with those types of problems, there's a lot of questions I start asking them. When did it start? When was it found? Which species, which strain, which source? What was the contamination level? How did it end up in my product? And most of these questions, in case of Listeria monostoges, for answering those questions, we do need subtyping. So since I started in Mérieux Nutrisciences, I was looking for ways how to offer that. And finally we decided to use MLST for that. But it was a kind of a struggle because there are many possibilities to do subtyping. So this is basically a rehearsal of what Jack and Guillaume were saying. So what you need is a basically integrated multidisciplinary approach to connect all the dots when you're doing a root cause analysis. Or, as Jack said, a pathogen scene investigation. Can I use that, Jack? Yeah, nice. Okay. So then some cases, some real-world cases. First one I would like to tell you a little bit about is a company that produces ready-to-eat foods. They detected Listeria monostogens in their gutters and drains. They also incidentally found Listeria monocytogenes in products, food products, ready-to-eat food products. They control the risk by means of studies, so challenge tests basically is what they've done. They control it by examining samples after production for contamination level, and they do that with a lower limit of 1 CFU per gram. So in that way, they are able to show that the level never reaches 100 CFU per gram, which is the limit. Yeah? Okay. So actually, in my opinion, this company is doing a very good job. I've also looked into the ways how they sample and what they sample, and they go a lot further than most companies because they really want to find Listeria, and that's very important. The company needs to have that attitude. You must want to find Listeria. So, but this company also wanted to understand how Listeria monocytogenes entered their factory. And they also want to think of additional measures, how to prevent contamination of their products, and to be able to assess the effects of, for instance, additional preventive measures like other cleaning agents. So yeah, basically, and just to make sure that the products are safe. So what did we do for them? So we stored isolates for them for already 4 years, I think now. They register all the data of the isolates, so location, date, etc., themselves. We made sure the isolates were compared to each other using multi-locus sequence typing, and we also organized the results for them in Microsoft Excel. And there are databases in which you can find more information for sequence types you find with MLST, and we also put that information in there for them. And the results were interpreted by the company itself with a little help from us. Don't know if you know what sequence multi-locus sequence typing is about, but basically what we do is we look at 7 housekeeping genes. They are amplified using PCR, then sequenced, and then the sequences are compared to a database, and they get a number. That's basically what happens. And then, yeah, if all the sequences are comparable to a sequence that's already in the database, they get that number as sequence type. So how did it help the food business operator? So for them, it confirmed that Listeria came in via raw materials. So they can go back to their suppliers and tell them about it, and it can be a preventive measure for them. They implemented improved cleaning and disinfection procedures, so they focused more on the hotspots, so to say. And they got increased confidence that their products are safe. And yeah, for some strains, they figured that whole genome sequencing might help to get a even more clear picture of what's happening. So, as my contact person said, to be able to compare isolate with MLST is very helpful for us. Then in another case, which clearly shows how it helps. This is a smaller company producing fish products. Here you can see that Listeria sequence types found in the production were also found in the products, it's a period of I think 4 months. You can also see that there's a shift in types of Listeria monocytogenes found in the production. But for this company, it was clear that it's present in the production, and from there it contaminates the product. But I think that's quite common for the fish industry. So, how would the GeneUp typer help? I know about the GeneUp typer. I was involved in the pilot. And these are the steps we have to take if we do MLST. MLST is a very nice technique, but it comprises several steps we have to do. So storage of isolates, no discussion about it, we have to do that. But if you do MLST, we don't do that in our own lab, so we have to send the samples to a lab that offers this service, like BaseClear. Then we first have to culture the stocks. Then we have to make sure that the cultures are transported to the lab offering these services, which can sometimes be complicated. Then the subtyping is done by the lab. They send the results back to us, and we have to process them and keep track of the results for our customer. And usually also explain the results to the customer, because they usually don't know what MLST means and what it means for them. So we looked at the GENUP typer and how it would help us. Well, fortunately, we have a GENUP system in our laboratory from Mérieux. So that's the system which we need for this typing method. So to us, it seemed like a very nice solution, because basically we can skip a lot of these steps in the process. We can just put the isolate directly after we isolate it in the PCR machine, and then the system Mérieux builds automatically puts it in the viewer they created. So if we look at it, what it means to us and our customers, it means that we can reduce the time to result to sometimes even less than 1 day. So that's very interesting. So yes, for our customers, if we're looking at Listeria monostogenes, it really will help. So what we've learned as a service provider, environmental monitoring and sampling requires more attention. A good sampling plan and good samples, I would say listen to Jack, because there's no one so passionate about it than Jack. You need the right tools and equipment, knowledge of the products and processes, including cleaning, understand the test, what do they mean, and you need experts who are able to connect the dots. So what we also often have seen is that pieces of the puzzle are missing. Subtyping means a lot more than the technique used itself. Often there's a lack of knowledge at companies and laboratories, and sometimes also unawareness or even unwillingness to do what is necessary. And sad but true, often what we hear, or they don't actually say it like that, but that's how we interpret it, is that what we do what it takes to get through the audits, but no more. So, unfortunately. So, one more thing I would like to say, because it can get quite complicated, and that is, for instance, if it's not detected, if you don't find Listeria, well, it all has to do with statistics, as we learned from Claudia and Fanny. Yeah. It could have been missed while sampling, of course, but it could also be a false negative result. If we look at the test, what we do and how we do it, well, it's a test for which we use a machine from Mérieux, in fact. We enrich the sample, so it's usually a sponge. We enrich, then we plate it on aloe, a selective medium for Listeria monostogenes, and then we put the colonies with the characteristics that tell us that's Listeria monostogenes. We put it in the VIDAS, which is a ELISA system, and then the ELISA tells us, yes, it's Listeria monostogenes or no. But if you take a closer look at this, we have all those colonies on the plate. And if you find, for instance, 100 colonies on the plate, then it means that you have about 100 CFU in 0.1 milliliter, because that's what we plated. So that means in total, in the bag, with the enrichment, there were something like 250,000 colony-forming units, cells. But was it one strain Was it 2 strains or were it multiple strains? So that's something that people often are not aware of, and also actually something that during the pilot the people from Mérieux saw, because we also offered enrichment samples to them, and they often saw that it could not be just one strain that was present. So if you know a little bit about microbiology, you know that there can be differences in growth rate. So is it really the strain you're looking for? So my take-home messages, so make sure that the isolates are stored. And maybe also good to mention, not just for 2 years, because if you ask this to the laboratories in the Netherlands, they know that the isolates have to be stored for 2 years. And after that, I'm pretty sure they will be thrown away. So if you want to have them stored for a longer period, you have to make them aware of that. Make sure you know what's possible. At least, you can already do a lot before running into problems. But if you run into problems, make sure that you know what's possible and where you can get it, because there's a lot of difficult techniques available, but you have to know where to get them. And make sure that you get trained, that you have the right expertise in-house. So be prepared for what's coming, and at least for subtyping, because it could happen to any one of us. And here's just some examples of huge brands that got confronted with recalls, which costed them a lot of money. Thank you.